What's up, Ranger fans? Oh, I apologize for being a few minutes late starting today. We had some technical difficulties, um, and nobody likes that. Nobody likes technical difficulties. But luckily, it was a quick fix, so Twitch did some stuff with their stream keys and stuff over the last couple weeks. But anyway, I am here. I'm Daddy Louie. You are watching Morphinominal Monday. That is the painting stream where we paint Power Ranger miniatures for Renegade's Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid board game. Um, if you remember from last week, we had started working on and got a good chunk of the Dayne miniature complete. However, I really want to go in heavy with this character, with this miniature, and make it look as good as possible because it is a personal favorite of mine. So we're going to go ahead and go down to the table here, if I can get my buttons working. There we go. And show off. There he is. The Dayne miniature that we had started working on. Now, a couple of really quick updates of things that kind of happened over the couple of weeks. If you remember back to last stream, I had said that I used the hot water, cold water method to get these energy whips molded the way I wanted to. However, over time, because I am in a basement heats up, cools down, things kind of shift a little bit. So if you notice now, the miniature actually probably won't stand up on its own because these have drooped down to where they are now touching the ground. And I was talking to my friend, and he said, well, how do you fix that? Because obviously the miniature is painted now. We can't really do the hot water, cold water method. So we could use a hairdryer. But we want to be very careful because we don't want to melt the plastic. We don't want to ruin our paint job. For me personally, I could just leave him on this. I don't have the cards to use the character to play anyway. So I could leave it if I wanted to. I probably won't, though. I'll probably do what it is that I need to do to fix that. But we'll get to that later. I won't do it on stream because using a hairdryer, the noise would be absolutely horrible. But, yeah, it's kind of a bummer that happened. I probably should have just left it alone straight out of the box that I got it in, but I really wanted to mold them a specific way because I wanted it to look exactly like this. I just want them up here. I could also bend them and rest them on top. Maybe I'll do that and then glue it. So I could just glue this. See, I just kind of moved it there and glued it. Maybe I will do that because I could do the same thing here, just like that. That's actually probably an easier idea. And just put a little bit of super glue on there. And then when I do the base, I will probably get, paint on those energies when I do the base. Do the base. But that's probably okay. I don't know. We'll think about it throughout the stream, but that's kind of where we're at with those energy whips. Today, what I really want to focus on is getting this cloak looking, or this jacket looking really, really good. I'm going to use a trifecta of colors, Celestial Gray, Ulthuan Gray, and Scar White to try and build up some nice color, some nice white color. But first, I want to put white on the armors, the armor on the arm, because that'll be pretty quick. And we'll do some highlighting on the gray to make that really pop out. His skin on his face, I'm pretty happy with the way that it looks, so I will probably leave it. And I want to do something cool to the base, too, so I don't know what. I have some textured paints here. This is Sterland Battlemire. Maybe I'll try that. I have a gray one around here somewhere too. I thought it's somewhere. I know I have it. Yeah, so that's where we're at. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just brighten up the white on the armor pieces. I'm not really too worried about doing multiple layers and stuff like that on that. So I'm just going to use Althuan Gray to brighten it up, see how it looks. Maybe do some white highlights. Before the stream, I tried working. I had to replace the top piece of the dropper bottle because the one that I had on there had completely dried to the top. So I opened it up and realized it's like the bottle is almost empty. So that's actually why stuff wasn't coming out, which has me concerned that I may not have enough to finish the model, which bugs me because I kind of need Althuan Gray. But we will figure it out. A little bit's coming out, so we'll just have to be sparing with it today. My wet palette is actually very, very wet too, which is not good because it's taking away all my paint in like a river of paint. One of the things about painting white or Althuan Gray in this case is the color white itself can get pretty chalky. The paint, it can get chalky. So the best thing to do is a couple of really, really, really thin coats of color. And so that in that case, it does help that my wet palette is super wet. It was actually dry, and then I added some water, and I think I might have added too much. But it's a little too late now, so we'll just have to go with it. And if we get this model done really quickly, which I don't think we will, I'm kind of tired today, so I'm going to be moving in slow motion. But if we do, I'd like to go back to that gun-ho model and fix that base, because it's like sitting on my table, and the zebra-striped red, white, and blue really drives me nuts every time I look at it, because I'm not really super happy with how that turned out. So we'll see. We will see. Yeah, it's been a really busy, long day today, so. Here in the U.S., it's a holiday, federal holiday, and it was actually my first federal holiday I haven't had off in 20 plus years. Because when I was in the military, we always had all the federal holidays off. But the company that I work for now doesn't take this particular holiday off, so I had to work, and it was so weird. And then on top of that, it ended up being a busy day, so. So yeah, that's just brightening that white up. Looks pretty good. I think I posted a finished picture on my Instagram, but I can grab the model and show it as well. It's not a big deal. So I guess I'll go ahead and plug my Instagram. So if you're not following me currently on Instagram, although I haven't posted there in a little while, a few days at least, probably a week or two. But I apologize. I'll definitely get back to doing that. It is at my tag is at the real Daddy Louie. Louie is Louie, and that's my Instagram. So go check that out. There are pictures of the finished products of most of the stuff that I've done recently. So I don't have a ton of the Power Ranger stuff on there, but I do have some of it. So definitely go and check that out. Yeah, so this is all through in gray. This is just really brightening up that white. And I'm being kind of careful because, as I mentioned, the paint is very wet. Because my wet palette was oversaturated with water. So I'm just being a little more careful than I'd normally be. Because I want to have as much control over that paint as possible. The wetter the paint is, the more control you have over, kind of how the smoothness finishes. But it does get a little wild, moving around your target. And like I said, it ends up being kind of chalky, so I've already done 2 coats up here, and I'm going to go ahead and do a third because I don't know if you can really see, but you can still kind of see that undercoat. And that's kind of the thing with white. If your white paint, or in this case I'll throw in gray, is not wet enough, so if you don't wet it down enough, it ends up being very chalky. So in this case, oh man, my hand just slipped. In this case, it's a good thing that the paint is wet. Okay, so yeah, the finished Solar Ranger picture is on my Instagram, so. And that model ended up turning out to be one of my favorites that I've painted so far, because I really enjoy the way that finished product looked with the nebula pattern and stuff. I'm gonna let that dry. I might have to do another coat on the bottom part. The top part looks not too shabby, but you can see how much more, how much brighter that is, and that's kind of the effect that we're gonna go for here on the jacket. But one of the things that we're going to do, with this model here is kind of wet blending, kind of. I've mentioned it on here before. Wet blending is still a technique that I struggle with. It's probably my a technique that I am least comfortable with when it comes to painting. You know what? Maybe if I move the paint over to a drier spot on the palette, it might be better. So I'm going down to Celestial Gray. I realize I didn't base the model with this. I based it with an off-white. And I want to make sure that my paint is super wet. So I'm actually going to add some water. I know that's contradictory to what I just said by moving where I had the paint on my palette to a drier spot. But it was too wet underneath, so it was like just moving all over. You can see it here in the corner. It just started to spread. So here what I'm going to do with this gray is I'm going to catch the jacket in all of the spots that are not shaded. So all these shade marks that you see, I guess I need to bring that back, down here, like that. I kind of want to give the jacket like a tattered and torn effect here. You know what I mean? Like, I want it to stay dirty, but I don't want it to be super dirty. It's hard to explain. But you can see, like, he's got holes in his jacket. It's obviously ripped up around the arm, so it's not like a brand spanking new jacket that he just bought, you know, at the Intergalactic Bounty Hunter store. He definitely has had this jacket for a while. And I want the paint job to be as, you know, as close to that as possible. I'm actually going to move these out of the way. Yeah, he definitely needs to go to, like, Target, you know, like Space Target or, you know, Walmart or something and buy himself a new jacket, because this one has had it. And you might be asking why I'm using gray instead of white when the base color was white. You could just as easily use the Wraithbone undercoat. And the reason I'm using Celestial Gray is because I just want to have a good base for the whites that I'm going to use. So I'm kind of trying to, like, cover up where the wash settled on that white. And and this is a great color for that. Okay. I realized that I hadn't said anything in a while. I apologize. I was really into that. Alright, I'll let that dry for a second. Let's catch up here. Is the new Heroes of the Grid Kickstarter getting to people? No, this is a advanced copy for the purposes of streaming for Renegade. I don't have the cards or anything. I just have the models to paint for you. The Intergalactic Bounty Hunter store. I'm not sure Dayne gets his stuff from there. I don't know. He might. I don't know where else he would get it from. Just saying. I thought the UK was getting it sooner than the rest of us. Yeah, I don't know. Is this Althuan Gray or is this Celestial Gray? So this is Celestial Gray first. And this is just, again, going over the dirty parts. You can see it kind of almost looks like a blue, like a bluish gray. And that's what we're going to highlight up with Althuan Gray now. All my minis are unpainted. I don't have the time to learn the skills necessary for them to look good. You could just, I don't know. You could have somebody else paint them. If you wanted them painted. Video jumping. Is the sound jumping as well, or is it just the video? The stream strength says it's good. So it says the performance is good. Open performance window. Your stream quality is good according to the metrics. I don't know. It's weird. Okay, so I'm gonna start working some of that Althuan Gray now. I'm going to the edge of the Celestial Gray, but not all the way. I'm leaving a little bit of overlap there, and that will stay. The small parts are way easier than the larger parts are way more difficult than the smaller lines and stuff. I actually really enjoyed doing the little small lines, but then it gets a little crazy on those larger flat parts. It's not happening now. Well, that's good. Hopefully it doesn't start doing that again. The key to doing what I'm doing, if this is something that you want to do, is making sure that you're constantly putting that wet paint on your brush, because you want it to be as thin as possible, because you want some of the layer underneath to show through, and not a lot, like just like a hint of it, because when you go to do your next coat, you're not going to go over your entire first coat, if that makes sense. So it's basically kind of like building up the brightness of the same color. It's essentially what wet blending is. You're basically taking your next, brightest color, and you're going over it and blending it with the undercolor, but not completely. You're leaving a little bit of that undercolor, so every time that you go in with a new color, you can still see some of the other one. And that's essentially what I'm trying to do without actually wet blending, because I'm not using like the two brush method here, which is what, if you're going to learn how to do it, that's what they recommend you starting with, because it's supposedly easy. I've tried a bunch of times. I just don't get it. I need to take like a workshop or something. I'm hoping that like the next convention that I go to, I can find like a painting workshop that teaches it. I feel like I need somebody like over my shoulder, like saying, nope, that's, don't do it like this. Don't do it like that. Do it like this. And I feel like that would help me. Because that's how I learned how to use a wet palette in the first place. I went to a local game store, and a guy had come in, and he kind of did like a little workshop, like a little painting workshop, and he showed different techniques and stuff like that. And one of the things that he recommended that I ended up adopting and bringing into my painting world was a wet palette. And now I can't imagine my life without one. Use a wet palette too. Got it from Redgrass. Yep, they make good stuff. Mine took forever, but as I'm sure that you all remember from my story. But now I have like 4 of them, so I think I'm set. I ended up getting that extra one, and I never got rid of it. I still have it. A few of these jacket parts that are white are very close to other details, so I have to like super slow down in those areas, but other than that, it's not too bad. So now we start the build up. Now that we have the white and the gray on there, essentially what I'm doing now is I'm going to go back over the white, and I'm saying white, but I mean all through in gray. So just keep that in mind. I'm going back over the white, but I'm not going over it completely. Again, my brush is still pretty darn wet, and I'm going over details starting from the center and working my way outward. And then I'm not going all the way out. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making sense. Again, I'm just building up that color because the paint was so thin when I did it last time. I can see some of that gray underneath. So I'm building up the gray in the center outward while leaving it some of that gray. I'm also trying to straighten out my lines while not covering them up. That's a really tough thing for me. Because I have a very shaky hand when I paint, believe it or not. While I'm doing that white, I'm going to do a quick over that arm too. And these energy whip things are really throwing me off. They're really in the way. But someone had asked last stream how durable they are. They're pretty darn durable because I'm knocking them around. And they're just moving with my knocks, you know? I hope that looks good on camera. In person, it looks pretty cool. Now I'm going to add a drop of white to the Ulthuan Gray I've already got on there. I'm going to use White Scar from Citadel, just to keep with Citadel. It's literally just a dot. And it's just to do one quick swipe over some of those details. It may be super subtle that you might not be able to see it on the screen. You can see I'm spending way less time in each spot than I was in the beginning. That's a good question. So the whips touching the base, that actually was, that actually happened over time after I had already painted them. When I got the model, I used the hot water, cold water method, if you're familiar with that, to kind of bend them in a way so that they weren't touching the base. And then I painted the model, and then over time, over the last 2 weeks, since my original painting stream, they kind of started to form back down there. So they're currently dry. Now, obviously, they are getting a little scuffed up from the paint handle. I will have to go back over those. But I mentioned at the beginning of the stream what I'm probably going to end up doing is just bending them ever so slightly so that the tips are touching the base like that, and then gluing them down probably. This will allow the figure to stand, and then because they're, super glued down, they won't move ever again. They'll stay there forever. So that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. I have not decided if I'm going to do it before I do the base or after I do the base. That's kind of one of the things I'm up in the air about. So, we'll see. Alright, now I'm going to go straight white. And this is just going to be for some highlights. I'm going to use my smaller brush. And man, this thing does not like to... There we go. It's a struggle to get that little drop of paint out. You should paint the base as if the energy whips have scorched the ground. Oh, that's a good idea. I like that. don't know if you can see that white line there or not. This is White Scar. But honestly, any white is white. Just like black is black, you know? You definitely want to make sure with the bright white that you get like the parts where like there's like the hole in the back, like the edges where it's kind of torn and stuff, because that would be brighter in that area. Disclaimer: if you are going to give your model a clear coat, especially if you use a dull coat like I do in all my models pretty much, this step that I'm doing right now is kind of pointless, because your dull coat is going to kind of cover up these white details that we're giving the model right now. They'll still be there. They'll just be really, really, really subtle. They won't be as obvious. So just keep that in mind. Furthermore, if you get a little too crazy with this step, and you're like, man, I just have too many white lines, they're too bright, give your model a clear coat, and it will really dull those down. You could also do like an edge highlight here on the bottom of the... Just turn your brush sideways and... that'd look cool too. But that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all we're gonna do with the cape there, or the jacket. Keep wanting to call it a cape, but it's definitely not a cape. It's a jacket. Brighten up some of these other white details just slightly. Alright. Now we'll start working on the undercoat there, or the body suit. Let me turn my... Now we're going to our good friend, German Gray. If you remember, we used German Gray for the entire bodysuit, and then we put a wash over it. So it's right now it's sitting at a slightly darker than German Gray color. So I'm just going to re-brighten some of the raised details, like the muscles here on the chest and the abs. You don't have to do this step. It's going to be very, very hard to tell what we did. But some of these flatter, these large flat spaces here, like this part of the leg, I just want to give them some extra color, if you will. But this step is kind of optional. Just picking up the flat raised edges. So like the top of the boots here. He's got like these, I don't know, some shapes and stuff on his boots. I think they might be shin guards, but they're the same color as the boots. From what I've seen in all my photos that I looked up, so. love to see a Dayne versus Blue Eyes White Dragon. Now we're going to get some Eshin Gray. We're going to put it next to the German Gray on our palette here, because they're pretty different. But we're going to mix some of it together. Again, staying in the front, going even less towards the back of the model. This would be very bright, the top of the leg here. I think we're gonna do add admin gray for the highlights. I just gotta see how it looks. It might be too bright. Maybe if I mix a little bit of that in there. Maybe like a 1-to-1 with admin gray and the Eshin gray that we were just using. Let's see how it looks. A little too wet, I think. You know what? Let me switch to a smaller brush. That might help. Oh man, I gotta put the top on my German gray. I don't want it to dry out. That'd be like a sin. I don't know if I like it. This is tough. Getting the right, and the thing that I'm referring to as being tough is just getting the right shade of light gray as that highlight, because you don't want it to be like so bright that it's basically just a line on your model, but you don't want it to be not bright enough to where you can't see it, you know? It might end up being one of those things that, like, I just stop messing with it because I'm worried that I'm going to screw it up. Like that. We're just going to let that dry and see. I can't really tell you like an exact mix of what I'm doing here because I'm just kind of playing around over here with this palette of, basically we started with German gray, Eschen gray, and then some admin gray. We're just kind of mixing them together as we go to see what consistency we like. On screen, on camera, you may not even be able to see what I've been doing for the last 20 minutes. But there are definitely some highlights there. Another option here is Dawnstone. It's not as bright, Let's give that a try. It's not as bright as admin, because I do just want a few lines in there. We could do blue as well. Let's give that a try too. So with gray, a lot of times blue looks good as well as, white. So you could do some blue highlights, grayish blue highlights. It gives you a nice comic booky feel. Like a green blue, you know? That's what we're going to try first, so let's see. That's a ticket right there. If I were to paint a Batman model, this is kind of the technique I think I would use as well. Just to give the gray a little something something. Well, I know on screen it's going to be hard for you to see this. I'm going to do a close-up in just a second. But just a couple of blue lines. In my opinion, brings that blue together real nice. I'm sorry, brings that gray together real nice. I don't like it on the gloves though. I'm gonna keep the belt and the gloves in that almost pure black color. All right, so this is Dark Reaper from Citadel. It's like a blue-green, dark, nice highlighting color. And let me see if I can get a nice focus on some of the blue. I don't know if you can see. I know you can see it probably. But it's subtle, especially mixed in with that gray. But that's kind of what we were going for. was subtle lines. Okay. I am happy with the way Dayne looks. I'm not super happy with the energy of the whips. Once everything was said and done, it looks a little too fiery to me. Looks more fire and less energy to me. I could start over again, but I don't want to do that because I worry that I'll get something on the rest of the model. So I'm going to leave them the way that they are. My recommendation to you guys when you're doing this model is if you don't like the color of mine, you don't like the way that they look, like I don't, use a little bit more of a flatter orange than a fiery reddish orange. Maybe something like this Bestigor Flesh. You can kind of see the difference here in the oranges. If you look at the comics, it's much more of a pale orange and not really like a bright neon orange. So I would probably, if I had to do the model all over again, I would probably go with something like this as opposed to this Troll Slayer orange. You know, you can see the difference right there. This is kind of what I was going for. And I hoped that by putting a wash on it, it would have... Maybe I can dull it down. I'm trying to think if there's something that I have that will dull it down. I'm going to try some Cerium Sepia. Or Seraphim Sepia. It's a wash. Usually washes dull down anything that you do. I just need to be careful that it doesn't... Because usually when you put a wash on stuff, you know, especially if you're being, like, real sloppy with it, it ends up going on to other stuff. And I'm pretty happy with the way that the model looks. This is like a brownish yellow. I'm not trying to change the color at this point. If I wanted to do that, I would repaint the whole thing. What I'm trying to do is take the color that's there and make it not so bright neon. This may end up making it look more like fire in the end. But I would almost be happier with that than the neon that they are now. And this is just personal preference. If you guys are looking at me like, oh, it looked great, what are you doing? I apologize. I apologize to your soul. I was just not personally happy with it for my shelf, which is where it will go when I'm done. So in the end, where I had originally said, man, I just don't want these to end up looking like fire, they may end up looking like fire anyway. But again, I would rather it look like fire than this bright neon non-energy thing, which is what it had ended up doing. Yeah, I just did not like that color. This already is a little better. Alright, while that dries, we will begin working on the base. Now, I liked the idea of the scorch marks, so I've got to figure out kind of that effect that I want to do. So what I'm thinking is maybe he's like standing on some like a rocked earth. You know what I'm saying? Like some rocks and stuff like that. The reason that I kind of gravitate to rocks in this case, maybe, yeah, the reason that I would gravitate towards rocks is because I can move the rocks around before the glue dries, and kind of like separate them. So to give the effect that the whips have, basically burned and destroyed the rocks that were once there, and make those marks. So basically, what we could do is take like a flat edge like this, and we could glue the rocks down. And while the rocks are drying, we put this down and kind of separate the rocks so that it looks like there's a line where the whips had come forward around maybe the top of him, down, scorched the earth, and then ended up behind him. So basically there'll be two burn lines from the front of the model, one going here to the back where it'll end, and then like one going here to the back where it'll end. Separate those rocks, let the rocks dry, then we can paint the rocks and all that stuff, and then we can make the scorched earth. I hope that made sense. It probably didn't. So let's grab some rocks. So I have this. I'm going to move this stuff out of the way. Actually, yeah, let's move. I really need a bigger desk. If anyone would like to buy me a bigger desk, let me know. I will give you my address, and you can have it shipped to my house. Thanks. We won't need the palette for now. We might get it back out later, but for now I'm going to put it away. But I want to show you kind of my organization here of my basing stuff. I don't base stuff very often. I spent pretty much the last 2 years painting Power Rangers and Marvel miniatures. And I'm going to raise this up so you guys can see. So here is kind of my basing stuff, if you will. So different kinds of rocks, pebbles, all these different earthy type things. I have different kinds of grass, different colors, and then I have these sand mixtures, which I pretty much made myself out of different bags of sand. So I would go to the store and get bags of sand, and then, what I would consider to be heavy rocks, or heavy sand and lighter sand. It just has, there's like a ratio, you know what I mean? Like, I would put so much in one and so much in the other. These are really great. I don't know why they're in here. They should definitely not be in here. These will work well for the scorched earth. These are secret weapon pigments. They're fantastic. So what I want to do for this model, because it is a bigger model, I'm going to use the heavy rocks. We're also going to need a couple of loose rocks, and that's probably, of course, we need some glue, and I have some water as well. This makes everything look like still water. This stuff is freaking cool. I had a fountain terrain piece that I was using, so I basically poured this on it, let it sit for a day, and it looks like the fountain is full of water, but it's not. But it gives that effect, which is really cool. But anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to show you with that. Alrighty then. Okay. I need this guy here. And my glue. So glue, where can you find that stuff? Great question. All over the place. These secret weapon pigments I got at a convention one time, but I've seen them online. Some of this stuff you just get at a local craft store. This glue, the rocks and the sand and stuff, I get all of that there. And you just get like three different courses of sand, right? You get like the big, the medium, and the small, and then you can mix your own together. So if you want heavy, or what I call heavy, like I've labeled this heavy, and these little containers I just got at the dollar store. So it has more of the bigger rocks and less of the medium and the small, and then the light is obviously the opposite. When it comes to gluing, one thing that I have found is that you do not want to just use straight glue. So we water the glue down. So I've put some glue on there. I'm going to get a junk brush. Cheap 20-cent brush from the store. I get some water. Always keep a bottle of distilled water next to my desk. Just helps. This is gonna make a mess. I might have put too much water. Now, why did we put water in the glue? To make it easier to spread around. That is really, you can see how watery that glue is now. It might be too watery, actually. We might need to put a little more glue in there. And make sure when you clean your brush, you don't clean it in the cup of water that you're using with your paint, unless you're done painting. That's bad. All right. One more thing we need. Super glue. So the bigger rocks that we're going to put on there, I'm going to use super glue to attach them. I do that first. So let's get some tweezers. And basically we're just going to try and pick where we want said rock to be. Probably like right about there. So we take... Now if we were back in school, it would be part where you'd taste the glue. Yeah. Where do we want the rock? I think I'm just going to put it like right there. You don't have to do this, this rock thing. It'd be cool if I could split a rock in half. Damn it. Why do I think of these things like to make it look like the whip broke it in half? That's probably too much for this, for these purposes here. Alright, now I'm going to glue the whips down like I had mentioned before. I really hate to do it, but I think in this case I'm going to have to. I'm just going to put some glue back here. And some glue over, like, way back here. There we go. Hopefully this holds. Alright, so that's kind of what we're going for there. And now we brush the glue on. I'm actually going to take the model off of the stand. And hopefully my hands are clean enough to where that's not an issue. By the way, normally all of these steps I would not be doing all at one time. I'm just going through them much quicker than I would if because of time on the stream. So I'm brushing on this glue, and I'm being pretty generous with it. If we get glue on the model, it is not the end of the world. This will dry clear, not white. So normally you'd probably paint the base like a dirt color first. So that way if any of the rocks over time fall out, it won't look like super weird. But honestly, I forgot. So that's why we didn't do that. You want to get a lot of glue around the big rock because you want the tiny rocks to kind of gravitate towards that big rock so it looks natural. You don't just have this giant rock sitting, and it's not giant obviously, but you don't want this, you know, odd rock just laying in the middle of the... You know, and some of this stuff I'm kind of making up as I go. I've done all of this before, except like the scorched earth, where with the lines that had, you know, come from whatchamacallit, come from the whips. I obviously have not done that before, so I'm doing it as learning kind of as I go here. What color would you use for the dirt base if you had done that? Probably something like a Morphinominal brown, like a reddish brown. Or any brown. You could do black too. It kind of depends on what color you plan on painting your rocks. If you plan on painting your rocks, you know, some people won't paint their rocks. They'll just leave them the color that they are, which is fine if you choose to do that. Another thing that you can do that I'm not going to be able to do on the stream because of time is let that glue dry, and then before you do any painting or anything else to the base, once it's dry, you would add, you would make another concoction, because this would probably be dry already, of the glue and water, and put it over top of your rocks again. It just helps solidify and keep all that stuff kind of in place, so you're not losing rocks constantly. So now before it dries, I want to make those lines for the whip where it would have scorched the earth. So I'm basically just moving these rocks out of the way because I'm going to paint this area here and these surrounding rocks to make them look like they're basically embers. This one on this side will be much shorter. Just kind of like very lightly going back and forth. If I was even more skilled, I could take a knife and make like actual indentations in the base. Maybe I can do a little bit. So that when I paint it, it actually looks like I'm just taking this. This is a Citadel tool I got a long time ago. And it has relatively... And I'm just kind of like running them back and forth. I'm basically just making like scratches on the base. Oh my gosh, we only have 10 minutes left? Where has the time gone? I really didn't want to do a third stream to get this model done, but I was having so much fun doing all these extra things to it. I've never done anything like this before, so... I mean, like I said, I've done bases, but not to this extent. You also want to be careful. You don't want, obviously, you don't want to get glue on your hands and then touch the model either, so... but this glue is not going to be dry in the next... minutes. I thought we had way more time. I don't know why I thought like we had a whole nother hour left. I don't know. What do you guys think? We can stop there, and then next week we can do a different model, and then, you know, maybe someday come back to this. I have a lot of models still that need to be painted. It's one of the downsides of only doing every other week is The time goes by super quick. By the way, those whips look a billion times better with that darker wash on it. They do look flamey, but maybe they'll still look cool when I do the other stuff. Like when we finish the base and all that. So you can kind of see where we're going with that, right? Those lines, you can see the separation. And we will paint those to look Can we vote for some models? I have 3 or 4 in mind. Sure, what are your 3 or 4? And I can tell you if they're even on my schedule. There's like some dust from the rocks on the model. You could leave that. That would be like a natural looking dust coming off the ground. Let me look at my list and see if any of those models are on there. Let's see. One of them is. Actually, 2 of them are. 2 of the 5 you just mentioned are on my list. Let's see, that guy looks cool. Ooh, I like that one. Yeah, maybe we'll go with that one. I like all these models. Okay, so this is that's what we're gonna do. We'll move on to a new model next week, or 2 weeks from now, and I will set this model up on my to be continued, and then if we finish a model early in an upcoming stream, we can come back to this, because it is definitely something I would really, really like to continue doing. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to... Let's add some more... It doesn't matter, just take one paint. Do it similar to the normal one, a little harder. Oh, the green samurai. Alright, I'm pretty happy with this as a stopping point. You guys have kind of unlocked my kryptonite when it comes to, oh, I moved that a little too far back. When it comes to painting, I hate to stop mid-project, but it is what it is, right? So I can wash my brush now because I don't plan on painting anymore, but normally you don't want to do that, and you definitely don't want to let it sit. You want to do that with an old brush or a brush you don't care about. I've created a ginormous mess, which is totally cool. I will have to clean it up, not now, because usually when these streams end, I just turn off my computer and go upstairs. I leave everything except my dirty dishwater sitting on my desk, and then I come downstairs and I'm like, man, I'm so messy. But that's okay. Anyway, let me show you where we're at. So there we are. We obviously have a little ways to go. The model itself is done. Normally, that would mean that we're done, because 9 times out of 10, I just paint the base 1 or 2 solid colors and call it a day. But this is a special model, so he deserves a special treatment. So he's going to go off to the side. I will... I'll definitely be painting one of the 5 that Power Ranger Fan 30 wrote on there, because I have them, and I have the graphics ready to go, which is cool. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. If you don't know who I am, I'm Daddy Louie, and I do these Monday streams for Renegade every other Monday. So our next one will be the 25th of October. Same bat time, same bat channel. Make sure that you follow my Instagram. My Instagram is at @TheRealDaddyLouie. Real is REAL. Louie is LOUIE. One word, The Real Daddy Louie. I have lots of nerdy stuff over there. Thank you, as always, to Renegade for having me on these streams. This is the dream come true. This is what I want to do, and I get to do it with you guys every other Monday, so I'm very grateful to Renegade for letting me do that. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your week. Take care of yourself. Take care of others, and make sure you remember to play your games. And we'll see you next time.